Hey, mindful partners, how are you doing? And that is usually code for when was the last time you checked in with yourself? How are your thoughts? How are the emotions that come up for you when you think those thoughts? And how does your behavioral pattern align with these? Are these three parts of you in alignment with the person you believe yourself to be? Or are you actively on your way to being? Whatever side of the coin you are, my solo rant this week should, I believe, help you gain some clarity. So, what am I doing this week? I'm getting a little personal and sharing some of my views on faith, my journey through mental health conversations, and the impact social media has on mental health conversations. So, sit tight, get a cup of coffee, tea, water, or food, and let's dig in. I am Oluwatumishi Oladapo Kuku. Having my faith questioned used to give me intense anxiety. Used to. I even opened a chapter in my book, Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being, with that exact sentence. Faith and consciousness, these are things I have carried with clarity for most parts of my life. But let's be honest, I understand why people push back against religion. In my opinion, all organized religions are based on interpretations of sects, denominations, and even traditions. I won't pretend to know everything about faiths, especially the ones I no longer practice, though I must tell you, I have explored quite a few in my search for meaning. But I do know this for those who follow the way, the resistance is often stronger. Why? Because this belief system, that's Christianity, the way, preaches grace, forgiveness, and love. It's a system that claims to be the one. And yet, the practitioners, again, in my opinion, struggle, not knowing which side of the covenant they truly belong to. So, here's the thing, placing your faith in a higher power doesn't necessarily erase existential questions. It doesn't mean you won't wrestle with doubt because there are things in life that you will constantly question. The answers may never come, or maybe they're already with you, but you need to step back, be mindful, and a huge dose of awareness to even recognize them, those that are right staring at you. The world then has become so noisy, unbearably so. You have to work harder in these times to find the quiet. And for those of us who believe in the way, who are Christians, at best, we are sometimes like Job's friends, conspiracy theorists of faith, talking about God, not necessarily speaking for him. My daughter and I in a conversation, and she put it this way that Job's friends weren't exactly wrong, but they were, as they say, Gen Zs, as they say, talking in the nonsense, seeing God only through their own limited lenses. And because we are called to hold each other accountable, we sometimes become caustic, self righteous, and I dare say modern day Pharisees. Except even the old Pharisees of the first century would probably learn a thing or two from us. Because I don't think we're better. But here's my challenge today. If we sit with what we say we believe and then strip all of it to its core, does any of it, whether indigenous or adopted, ask us to suspend common sense as we search for meaning? For the avoidance of doubt, I believe in God through Christ. I know the damage humanity has inflicted in his name and on his name, that is God. I do not like my faith and consciousness questioned, but in the questioning, I have found clarity. I have found myself. Hear how I articulated it in my book, Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being. Faith and consciousness is what I call the chapter, by the way. Faith is a great part of my existence, and the energy that flows from it is sometimes quite surreal. Yet, it is not something I willingly do. It is something I allow my consciousness to bring to the front burner of my mind. I am one of those people who never really had an issue believing in a higher power, especially through Jesus. I, however, was curious enough to be familiar with other forms of belief systems. Why? I really can't say. I just needed to understand why we believed, how we believe, and what shapes that for us. It is very difficult for most minds to understand the concept of a bigger phenomenon to believe in, but it rarely has never been a challenge for me because experiences early in life made me know there had to be someone or something else that was fueling my existence. Disappointment came in so early in my life. I was 6 years old when I realized that even my parents were powerless in the face of how dark the human mind could be. The options open to me then were few. Acknowledge and bury. Acknowledge, get angry and bury. Acknowledge and pretend the child doesn't understand. Of all the options, none really truly addressed or solved the problems. As a child, I would just sit in a corner and cry in the hope that the God I was taught to pray through and to would listen and heal. And I can say, yes, he listened. That healing is still ongoing. For me, faith became the only crutch that I could reliably lean on without the fear of being judged. That passage sums up much of what faith has been for me. Not a shield from pain, but a lens that gives me perspective. And this is where I see the tension in today's world. On one hand, we have those who see faith as a crutch, something weak people hold on to. On the other hand, we have those who weaponize faith, turning it into a tool of judgment and exclusion. And somewhere in between, social media amplifies both extremes. One of the most frequent questions I get and have gotten on this journey is, how, Tumiche, have you been able to keep your head above water? How do you manage being a person living with bipolar affective disorder? The answer is layered. Medical intervention is crucial. I cannot underemphasize the strength, the power, the gift of medical intervention. It gave me the language to understand why I showed up in different spaces with different versions of myself, why my emotions swung to the extremes. But you see, my faith? That's something I've been able to hold on to since I was 6. Did it stop the abuse? No. Did it prevent the molestations? It didn't. But it gave me perspective. I could have easily become bitter. I could have turned into the very thing that caused me pain. But faith gave me an anchor, something higher to hold onto. So why is this heavy on my mind today? Social media. I see anger. I see anger everywhere. Everyone is angry. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone is trying to be heard. The keypad has become a weapon. There's a lot of anger at fate, at the people who practice any kind of faith, not just Christianity. I'm just speaking from my own lens here. At fate, at people who choose grace, at those who take the high road. They are called weak. On the flip side, I see how mental health conversations have evolved too. Awareness has increased. Yes, it has, but so has its misuse. We throw around "I'm protecting my mental health" so carelessly that the phrase has become so ubiquitous and, dare I say, irresponsible. Again, as my daughter pointed out when we're having a conversation around this, those who truly need help now struggle to seek it because mental health discourse on social media has become so facetious. That's funny, fake, whatever, however you want to interpret facetious, the synonym that you want to use for that. So performative, she said, that it further stigmatizes instead of liberating. Now, let us be clear. Let us be clear. Mental health conversations are not about creating a fantasy where life is painless and free of fear, of failure, of wickedness. Because as long as there are humans, good and evil will coexist. Let me draw from my Yoruba heritage for a bit here. There's a saying, an aphorism that says, "Tibitiri ladaye." We're born into both good and evil or bad. So, what's the answer to the question, Tumishe? How do you keep yourself above water, your head above water? How do you navigate living with bipolar affective disorder, mood swings, and all of that within the space of all the craziness that's going on? For me, the answer is quite simple. I live mindfully. Yes, I know it's an obvious answer because, hey, the podcast is called Mindfully with Tumishe. The book is called Living Mindfully and all of that. But it truly is the answer for me. Trying to step away from the noise and sitting with myself to understand why situations and events trigger me. How do I resolve this? How do I find the me that is supposed to respond and relate, reflect, and resolve those things for me to live as authentic as I can afford on the side of eternity? As we navigate these conversations, faith, mental health, the digital age, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to be intentional about what you believe, about the words that you use on yourself and with other people, and most importantly, how you engage online. How you engage online. In the past 3-4 weeks, I have consciously stayed offline. Even a movie, I watched a movie, and the movie, I really did like the movie and how it was how men were portrayed and the whole story of healing and forgiveness and all. And yesterday I decided to go on social media, and I saw the ratings of the movie and the anger that was coming from why should there be forgiveness? Why should there be grace? And I'm like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Be careful, be intentional about how you engage online and the things that you take in online, because they will affect the way you think, the emotions that come up from the thoughts that have come in your head, and most importantly, how you relate with yourself and others. Number 2, be mindful. Again, a very obvious call to action. Find quiet in the chaos. Kill the fear of missing out. Literally, kill the fear of missing out. You don't know everybody on earth, and it's impossible for you to know everything that's going on earth. Even with your spouse, with your partner, with your children, especially if you have teenagers and young adults, you don't know what's going on. Kill the fear of missing out. It will drastically help you manage worry, anxiety, phobias, and everything that comes with your everyday mental health questions. I'm not talking mental health. I'm talking mental health questions like your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors. Be anchored. Obvious? Yes. Be anchored, whatever that means for you. Find something that keeps you steady when the world is shaking. Find something that keeps you steady when the world is shaking. I've said the way I find my own anchor is God through Christ. Whatever higher power, and trust me, you can go Google it or search it. Psychiatry, psychology is saying now that people will have their anchor, people, especially people living with mental health questions and mental ill health who have anchors in a higher power, tend to come around faster than people who do not. And that's because I think there's hope. There's some form of hope. There's some form of place that you anchor yourself. And I'll use myself as an example. Again, when I was 6, I had an audience of one. If you read Living Mindfully, I talk a bit about how that relationship anchored me and how it helped me to understand that the evil that is happening to me was also happening for me. I remember that the first time I went to the hospital, to the psychiatrist, and the psychologist asked me, all of this, have you done this to someone before? And I'm like, why would I do that to someone? It caused me pain. Why would I want to cause someone else pain? And he said to me, to be honest, that will be a natural response. You want to hurt because you've been hurt. But I dare saying that because I had this perspective of yin yang, the good and the evil, being part of existence, because you can find good in bad, and you can understand, or you can understand bad and good. Yes, because when the good does come after you've been through bad, you can then appreciate it. And then it was like, that's quite rare. I'm sure I'm not the only one who lives that way, but if you are part of that community where someone has hurt you and you're thinking revenge or you're thinking justice, which is quite, I don't know how to describe justice, and that's a conversation for another day. May I invite you to find yourself anchored and understand, like I said in the first tip, how you believe, what you believe, even if you call him the supreme one, you call it the universe, however, can I invite you to sit down with that truth and strip it to the core to be able to find out how you can navigate Tibi, Tiri, the good and the bad in existence. Because on this side of eternity, in this dimension, then some answers would never, ever get. And if you take nothing else from this solo rant, remember, mental health isn't a trend. Faith isn't a weapon. And social media isn't real life. Live mindfully. And that's the end of my rant, my solo rant today on faith, on mental health questions, and on social media impact on these narratives. So if you have any questions for me or what you think I should have done and I didn't do with this conversation or this rant, you can send me a mail. Send me a message via info@blackimages.com. That's BLACKHEMAGES.com, or just go to the description of this episode. The link is there to send a mail, or you can just send a text send me a text also in the description. Leave a comment on socials and follow me on social media, of course. Ironic, I know. Mindfully with Tumishi. My name is Oluwatumishi Oladapokuku. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love this country or your country, and above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. Next week, a very, very interesting conversation. I have one of the most interesting guests sitting on the other side of the mic with me. Do not miss that. Until then, remember, it is worth repeating. Mental health isn't a trend. Faith isn't a weapon. And social media isn't real life. Go become. Live mindfully.
I'm hoping for a better life, praying that nobody's story turns out like mine. The only thing I know is fear, even those with good intentions disappear. All that I could feel was pain, and strangers came and took my soul away. Like a deadly hurricane, I know my life will never be the same.